Just a minute. We got the legend Willy Wonka coming up on stage. Wonka, while you were here, man, how does it feel to be famous and have the opportunity to speak in front of a crowd of 7 of your peers here on Twitter?
I feel very privileged. But like the reason that I came up was to talk about soccer and football. So
Bro, okay, first off, it still is called soccer. there's there's zero debating the fact that it's called soccer.
yeah,
And
I mean we can call it soccer now, right? You guys ain't watching it anymore, anyways, no?
so my world team so rare got absolutely obliterated. Like absolutely obliterated. The entire lineup just completely destroyed. So yeah, to be fair, was it the best outing ever? Probably not. But it's all good. We thrive, we survive anyway. I'm curious to see if we have any survivors from Art Basel that end up coming up here.
Yeah, true. I know some of the folks from Room 110. They claim to be pretty dead. Yeah.
Down that, bro. Anytime after you go on a trip like that, like it is, I'm sure for them it was about 4 days straight of just complete and
Yeah.
utter debauchery. So I would not be shocked to see very few survivors. No, man. What else good with you right now?
Nothing much. Just working a lot and actually watching football a lot. So that's Japan. Japan just crashed out on penalties today, right? Like half an hour ago. That was pretty sad. I was rooting for them. So yeah.
Well, what team? What is your team going forward right now? Give us the outcome.
I mean, I'm Swiss, so I have to support Switzerland, right? But no, I'm supporting Argentina. I hope they win. We'll see.
You're just a Messi fan?
What about you, though? Yeah, I'm a Messi fan. I am a Barcelona fan, so I of course have to also support Messi.
No, it makes sense, man. It makes sense. I mean, honestly, like I really at this point just don't care. I mean, I enjoy watching the games, like what you said, but I've got no team in particular. I'm not like a die-hard seasonal um, seasonal soccer fan. I nearly said football. I'm not a die-hard
Yeah.
soccer fan. So at the end of the day, like when all this is said and done, like it is what it is for me. I love watching during the World Cup. I enjoy watching during the Olympics. But outside of that, like I don't really keep up with club soccer.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, I do pretty much. So I have no idea about what was it called? Egg hand or hand egg?
And
uh,
oh man,
so yeah, we're even out. I see Roosters here. Rooster probably can give us a first-hand experience on Art Basel.
I'm excited to hear about it. I'm excited to hear his voice first and foremost. Before he speaks, I want to hear how down bad do you think Rooster's voice sounds like right now? Like, what percentage is it going to be there? I'm going with a solid 60, 65. Like, I think there will be a little bit of raspiness, a little hoarse. You'll
from,
see the signs of
from
fatigue, but he's young enough that he's going to be able to bounce back and have, the stamina to be able to push through and still give us the rundown of what happened.
For sure. From what I heard yesterday, though, he's pretty dead. So I'll let Rooster talk. So
65% if we're lucky, right?
Oh man! So when'd you end up getting back, man? Were you there through this morning, or you end up heading back yesterday?
My flight was at 7 yesterday. So I headed back last night. Got in Denver around midnight. But yeah, it was a great time. I slept a total of 9 hours since I flew in on Thursday. By the time I left,
Dude, that is ridiculous.
yeah, it should be criminal for places to be open like till 8, 10 in the morning. That should definitely be illegal. I feel like now. Oh
Oh, so
man.
you were there like till 10.
Yeah, I was everywhere. Yeah, yeah, I'm not sure. I've seen a lot of different reactions about Art Basel, and I saw a couple memes where it was like, NFT events at Art Basel. It's like a picture of a bunch of people on their phones, and we must have not been at the same Art Basel because I had a way different experience.
Well, dude, first and foremost, I want to hear how did the Room 110 event go?
Oh, it was awesome. It was so I don't know if you saw, but they actually made us our own cocktail.
Yeah, I did see that, man. Which that's badass in and of itself.
Yeah, it was
And it looked
very
like the cocktail, like, if they did make it, I think I looked at it, like the cocktail price was basically free for, Miami standards, at least. It
right,
looked like there was a little bit of a
$11.
discount there for it too. Yeah,
Yeah,
$11 in Miami is basically free. I mean, heck,
free.
$11 these days for a cocktail in most places is pretty cheap, which is kind of insane in and of itself. But like Miami, especially if you're going out in South Beach, Brickell, those areas, you can be spending $30 for a cocktail easily, which is crazy.
Yeah, and so I met B-Ways, BT, Matt Crow, met a bunch of people. B-Ways and BT are, obviously verified legends. It was funny. So we were at the Psychedelics Anonymous event, right, at LaRouche, and it's like impossible. It was honestly pretty hard to, network there just because you could barely hear yourself think. But it was a great vibe, great party, and I swear I hear B-Way's voice. I turn around and I was like, I think that's B-Ways. And so, obviously I go
So
and
you
I
hadn't even met him yet.
no, right. I hadn't even met him yet. And so I turned around and I was like, B-Ways. And he goes, name?
Wait, he didn't spot you out initially by the name or by
Right.
the voice?
Right, exactly. Well, I mean, it was impossible to hear anything, pretty much. No, but it was funny. It was like legendary the way it happened. I started cracking up, and then I was like, "It's Rooster," and then he was like, "Oh shit, Rooster!" And yeah, we had a fucking blast.
Bro, that's amazing. Okay, so what night was that?
That was first night. That was Thursday night. Um,
Okay, that makes a lot more sense then. So that was before you guys had the Room 110, before you guys met up, did any of that stuff. Which, again, I'm curious. Did you have anybody that was kind of random that you didn't expect to come to y'all's event?
a couple people. So honestly, I met a lot of people, but I also don't remember which ones were which, right? Um, and they'd be like, so here's how it all started. We get to the Airbnb, and it's the best spot it could have been anywhere. We're in a nice penthouse, literally in the heart of Wynwood. Everything was within walking distance, like 2 minutes, 3 minutes away. And there's this little bodega across the street, and I hadn't eaten in a couple hours, so I was like, let's go grab some sandwiches. Um, so we go across the street to grab some sandwiches. In this bodega, it was like a convenience store. They had a sandwich shop. There's like a crackhead looking lady dancing with a baby doing a wine tasting. There's a DJ there and a mini art gallery, like right across the street. And I was like, okay. I was like, I feel the vibe, Miami. And then we randomly like saw Klaus and some other PA people there. Um, so we linked up with them, and then we ended up like throwing a pregame, I guess, at the penthouse, and like ended up like 50, 60 people showing up to the pregame. Then we did the psychedelics event, which was great. And then did we do something after psychedelics? Or no, we did. We just hosted another after party after psychedelics. That was fun. And then the next day we did D Gods. the D Gods Youths event, and
Which I was going to ask, what was your access for that event? Because I didn't know that you were a D Gods Utes holder.
I'm not.
Okay, so you just knew the right person.
No, yeah, Rooster could get in anywhere. It was we went to Goblin Town as well. But the youth, it was like across the street from our, like literally 20 feet away, from where we were staying. And
Oh, that's badass, man.
yeah, it was cool. It was
Were there more events like toward where you were, or like on the South Beach side, or was it kind of like even?
most of them were honestly 5 minutes from us. So we ended up picking. I think we're gonna get the same spot every year, is what we were talking about. Just because the convenience of location, and it was a really nice Airbnb. So yeah, we went to D God's Youths. It was kind of underwhelming. It was more like a mixer, but it was easier to network there and meet people because you could actually hear yourself. And then after that, I think we ended up meandering to Dirty Rabbit, which was very fun. I like that. I like that club. It was my vibe, and yeah, had a bunch of fun there. And then Tuesday night, it's all honestly kind of a blur because I only slept 9
Tuesday
hours.
night. Wait,
Or
you
no,
were there Tuesday?
See, that's
See, that's like you're going backwards in time now. Either that or forwards. Like you're going back to Miami, and I don't know about it. One or the other.
right. No, that was Friday night, and then Saturday we went and hung out at the beach for a little bit. I wanted to get some beach time in. Then we did Goblin Town. Oh, and this is when B-Waves crashed. This was when we were tweeting bearish on B-Waves because he's like, I'm gonna go sleep for 3 hours at like 3 p.m. because none of us had slept the night before, and he was out for 12 hours. But he wakes up at like 3 a.m. And like pulls up on us, and he's like, I'm fucking fresh. Let's go. But Goblins was actually like, it started off pretty shitty. I guess we also like got there like during the premium access part before like they just started letting a bunch of people in. And there's a bunch of art all over the walls, and I didn't know this at this because I had to go take a piss. And they were encouraging you to piss on the floor. They're like, come piss on the floor over here. It was in a abandoned Macy's in an abandoned mall.
Dude, you're joking.
No,
right?
I'm not. Literally, the Goblin Party was in an abandoned Macy's.
But they were encouraging you to piss on the floor.
That's what the sign said.
Bro, there's no way in hell that anybody actually did it because, like, dude, that's gonna start smelling like shit.
The whole place already did smell bad. It was a Goblin Party, and they were giving out like free tattoos in the back as well. They had like a tattoo station set up. There was an open bar, and there's like a bunch of art all over the walls. And while I was pissing in the toilet, I guess they made an announcement that like it was like a heist, and so any piece of art you saw, you could just literally rip off the wall and keep. So it was pretty cool, but I miss everything. Because it was happening while I was in the bathroom, I guess. But a bunch of people got some cool art. The DJ they had at first like really sucked, and I was like, yeah, this party's all right. But then they brought this other dude out, and he was like playing on the drums, and he was a really really good DJ. And it got much better. And then we went to the Sappy Seals like rave thing somewhere down the street afterwards, which was also very fun.
The Seals rave did look fun. I saw some videos of that. It looked like it was a good time. You know, the thing with a lot of these that I was, you know, that I was impressed with, like they look like they sized the venue correctly, you know, because some people I feel like I've been to some events there where they overestimate, you know, how many people are going to be there. And then eventually, like if you've got too big of a venue, then, you know, it can kind of like almost you get lost in the space of the place, right?
Right.
You know, but the proper size venue, you're going to have a little bit of a wait or something out front, right? Like nothing too insane. But you're going to be able to fit the majority of people that come, but you're not going to just have this massive emptiness that, kind of takes away from that atmosphere that you're looking for there. So, were there any spots that you went to that were either kind of like just completely dead, or, that you showed up and you were like, holy shit, that line's insane. Like, I'm not even going to try this.
Room 110 doesn't wait in lines, Kaleo. No, I'm kidding. No, everywhere we went was pretty fun. The most underwhelming one for me was D Gods, but it was also very enjoyable. Met a bunch of people there. Met a bunch of SEALs from overseas and a lot of PA people. I think what they did well during this event too was a lot more cross pollination than last year. Um, so I think that played out really well, and I think more communities should probably, co-host events together rather than like trying to, block other people out.
I like that. So, I mean, what was one of the prime examples of co-hosted event that you went to that ended up turning out pretty well?
The PA Plague and SEALs event at La Rouge was.
Oh, okay. Shoot, I guess that's what I missed. I thought each of those were individual events, so they were co-hosted.
So yeah, the first one at La Rouge was the PA Plague and SEALs event. Yeah, it was a co-host. I didn't meet many frogs there, which was very surprising. I thought I would meet a lot more frogs there, but I was just maybe in like the PA SEALs area. Could be, but yeah, I didn't. Not mainly. I met frogs, but like not, like they didn't identify as like main frog holders. They're like identified. They're like, I got PA seals I got all of them, but the PFPs are like PA or seals or whatever. But yeah, that was one of my favorite ones, just to start the night off with it. That was when we met most everybody for the first time too. And I met a lot of legendary people, and so that brings me actually to a question for you: is for my next acquisition, I kind of want to get seals. I kind of want to get a seal and join that community, but also kind of want to sweep a couple frogs because I feel like they're about to have a next momentum push forward, and then maybe flip those into a seal, and then also I want to buy more PA now as well. Yeah, honestly, very bullish.
What's the question? I'm hearing a lot of statements.
Right. Kaleo, what should I buy next?
All right. Well, first and foremost, not financial advice. Let's see. We'll check it out. Plague has looked incredibly strong. It's surged recently. It's right near the all-time high. Still chopping right above that 0.24, 0.25 area. I wouldn't be shocked if it does continue higher from here. Here's the only thing that I struggle with as far as PA, which, I feel like gives it a little bit more breathing room as far as time to be able to accumulate, is, man, it is just so flooded. The ecosystem is a little bit diluted right now, right? Like, they've had so many projects that they've put out there that there are a lot of different things that the people that are already holders and strong believers of the project have to accumulate. So I feel like that'll give you a little bit more time. Not to say that it's a death nail to the project and it can't ever come back, but I think it does provide the opportunity for people that have a stronger level of conviction a little bit more time to be able to accumulate with it, right? Because you've got the Genesis collection, but on top of the Genesis collection, I mean, Rooster, you could go through the list of the others that are out there that all play into that ecosystem as well. That I just feel like there's probably some type of even if it's not the Genesis side that you'll have more time for, the higher beta plays in some of the other smaller named collections that are part of that ecosystem. I feel like you'd have more time to accumulate.
Right.
So
and Bolt's doing they're doing a major announcement, like a major space this week with a lot of he's had quite a few major announcements. And PA for me, I never wanted to trade PA just because from the beginning, minted a full set, and they quickly rose I got priced out very quickly, from being able to accumulate PAs, right? I think the all-time high was around like 6 ETH for a Genesis. The full set was like, all-time high was like 12 ETH, somewhere around there. And so, yeah, got priced out from being able to easily accumulate more. But PA was always something you could trade every single time. Like it always pumped during spaces about like 20 to 50%, and then would have a pullback afterwards. I was just too scared to try and it's like maybe the one time I sell is when they don't pull back, right? So I would have been able to like easily scalp PA before. And so, that could be another play this week. Though, all the pieces will probably pump up to spaces during spaces and a little bit afterwards, and then pull back a little bit again once the hype settles down.
But again, if you're going from that pure trade, or if you're trying to avoid the pure trading perspective, I think that you still probably have a little bit of time to buy it for, because like you said, it's one of those things. A lot of the time when you have an announcement on that, it ends up being a sell the news event where people buy into it, but it sells off after. Like regardless if it's NFTs or anything else, unless it's one of those where, basically it's an announcement for an announcement where the next announcement somehow has more hype. But,
yeah,
like realistically looking at it, out of the names that you said, the name that kind of sticks out the most for me short term would probably be Sappy Seals. Because Sappy Seals, if you're looking at it, look at what happened the last time that Penguins had a massive run up, right? Like within a couple weeks of that happening, or a few weeks after, Seals really gained a lot of momentum on top of that, right? A lot of people looking for that cute meta. And right now, Penguins are basically at their all-time high floor as far as, floor price. Like they are almost in price discovery right now in terms of their ETH floor price, looking at 4.25, where Seals are still stuck at 0.7, right there underneath. Looking at like that higher beta play where, they lag a little bit, but have the chance to move, with higher volatility on top of these type of moves. Like I would think that Seals would be a pretty obvious one as far as an answer for, hey, what could be something that builds on the momentum? And, like you said, super strong vocal community on Twitter, like had a great party as well. Prominent founder with that, like a lot of engagement. And then, another thing that's pretty important, I realized they play into the whole pixel ecosystem, but I still think that overall their primary ecosystem is, relatively concentrated supply. Like, it's a 10K supply for Seals. They don't have like baby seals or anything. I get they've got the pixel pets, but the pixel pets, I feel like, I don't want to say are irrelevant to the seal collection, but, I feel like they're kind of different even though they're related. So I do think Seals is out of that group for, if you're looking for like over the next month, what I would say would perform the best out of all those, that would be my pick.
Yeah, that was my initial thought as well. Seals was my was the number one acquisition, but the feeling I've gotten about the frogs is I don't like percentage wise.
You're cutting out a little bit, my man. Yo, Rooster, you're getting rugged.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I don't know if you can hear me.
Okay, I think you're good.
Yeah, pulling up in my parking
you're
spot.
Good now.
It's I never get this one piece of plywood, I guess, cuts all reception in my parking spot.
That's funny.
But yeah, so I was thinking if it would be easier to, or not necessarily easier, but likely to be able to flip 1.5 to like 2 frogs or 3 frogs into 2 seals, right, instead of just one.
The thing I'm interested in, Rooster, 1 second, I'm going to mute you while you're walking because I'm hearing a lot of echo from the wind cutting through. But I don't think that you own any seals to begin with, right? And I know that you own some frogs, so that's why I'm thinking the diversity play is pretty solid. You know, I'm still heartbroken that like I am the shallowest exposed to my pain collection that I've been because of what happened with FTX, where I had to liquidate some pings after that happened, just for the sake where I was like, okay, I want to secure a little bit more cash right now, just because I took such a massive hit with with the FTX thing that I was just looking to secure some form of liquidity. But like I still have a solid amount. Like I only have a couple big pings now instead of the 8 that I had. But I've got I still have I think close to 40 lils, so still a decent amount there. And like, but I don't have enough seals. I don't have enough. I've got a decent. I think I've got 10 or 11 frogs. Little stash of frogs going on. But again, all those I'm bullish on. The one that I really hope eventually one day takes off. I don't even have that many of them. I've got like 10 little chubbyverse friends, but I just don't get how that one doesn't eventually follow suit with all of this, because I'm looking at like the people that are, the owners, the founders, everything else of chubbyverse friends. And they're all like people from the penguin community, right? So again, I'm looking for those like penguin beta plays for, hey, as it skyrockets, because I really think that it's going to head into price discovery. What are the beta plays? And, Chubbyverse Friends is one of them. Hey, Wonky Stonks is one of them. I got to give a shout out to the Stonks on the Stonks space. We got a lot of ping holders who love the Stonks as well. So, looking for the plays that are going to carry off the momentum of something strong and that's kind of a market leader right now, I think is a solid idea whenever you're looking for, okay, how am I going to allocate this free capital that I have to invest?
Right. That's one thing that I really wanted to do that ended up missing was a penguin party. I wanted to meet a lot more pangs. Did meet. I see Nick T up here. We did meet him. Also another legend. Um, but yeah, I did end up missing the penguin party, which I did wanted to go to. But yeah, I've been browsing. I've been seal shopping. I have like a couple that I'm deciding between. So that's your vote, seals.
Yeah, if it's net neutral on what you have to spend, say that you've got one ETH to drop on something, I would say, hey, a seal's probably a good bet. Plus, you would have enough for a frog or like a little pudgy on top of that. So, I think that you could almost compromise with both, just depending on what your budget going into it is.
Right. And speaking about cute thesis as well, and pumping, pandas were doing really nice. Unfortunately, they didn't do a Art Basel event, which I was extremely disappointed about because pandas rage, and that would have been the perfect spot to do it. Which was also annoying. So I had when they were at around point 0.3 right before Art Basel, I had listed my Genesis on Blur. This is when I'm trying to secure the more airdrop for Blur too. So I was like turbo listing on Blur. But then they have no mobile support. So while in Art Basel, I noticed that they're pumping and like my Genesis is only like 8 away from the floor at this point. So I delisted on OpenSea and I couldn't delist it on Blur. They have absolutely no mobile support. I couldn't even like get to my account on Blur to be able to take that panda off. So I ended up selling. Yeah, I ended up selling 2 pandas that I couldn't delist during Art Basel.
Okay, wait.
Yeah.
So it ended up getting sold out from underneath you, way beneath what you wanted it to.
Right. Yeah, no, I think just in 24 hours, I missed out on like 0.3, an extra 0.3 profit. I think Genesis is like sitting at like 0.69 when I looked yesterday, and mine sold for like 0.47 or like 0.45. So like yeah, like 0.25 I missed out on just in
Dang, man.
like
Well,
a 12, 24 hour period.
so I haven't seen, many people talk about what they've gotten with the second blur drop yet. It's supposed to be today, right?
Yeah, it is supposed to be today. And I'm actually kind of irritated because before I had like 100% loyalty or whatever, and the very high chance of getting like the legendary drops. And then I turbo listed, and then my loyalty went down to like 50% and a medium chance to get legendary drops. And so it was actually an inverse effect of putting more activity on Blur to get more airdrop that I'm actually shooting myself in the foot over it now.
No, dude, that sucks. So,
Yeah, I know. I couldn't figure out. I didn't know what I did. I was like, and I use their sweep. Everything that they're saying. If you want more airdrop, do this. I use their sweep tool. Was listing on, all like, the top 500 or whatever projects to make it count towards it. And then my airdrop went down, and I was like, this is fried. And it cost me my Genesis Panda.
that sucks, man. Well, that's what I'm curious about. So, AirDrop 2 is supposed to be 10 times bigger than AirDrop 1. I'm just curious to see if it really looks like that for a lot of people.
Right. Has it dropped?
I'm looking right now. It doesn't look like it. Again, I thought that it was supposed to be sometime today, but I am so, let's see, blur.io, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not seeing anything for it yet. I'm checking. And I'm not seeing anybody talk about it yet. But that is something that should be popping up later today. And again, I think that like they said, the actual tokens get released sometime in January.
Right. I
And
think it's
that,
January
that that's
1st.
kind of been my thesis over the past month, has been, for the NFT market as a whole, that's the next real stimulus check that people are going to get, right? Like, is the Blur airdrop, because Blur is going to be listed on several major exchanges. I'm sure they've got partnerships lined up. There are a lot of these exchanges that want to drive that type of activity. So, I'm sure that it's going to be listed, and there are a lot of people that are going to take that, convert it, if nothing else, on the dexes, and immediately convert it to ETH. So they'll take that ETH and sweep whatever their favorite project is. Because what NFT degens love to do, buy more NFTs with whatever free capital they get. So, say that this is, like for people somewhere ranging from $1,000 to $10,000 that the average person gets, which is a lot of money, right? They're going to be able to take that, and boom, what does that look like? Well, you're talking about a half ETH to, up to like 7+ ETH to be able to start spending on some of these type of projects that people value and are within that price range. So I really think, from the bottom down, that there is going to be a little bit of a surge that ends up coming here, because there are a lot of people that have probably experienced a liquidity crunch over the course of the past several months. And this is going to be basically a stimulus check for them. So I think that there really is, a little bit of alpha in front running the airdrop as far as some of these collection sizes that meet that criteria within that budget.
No, yeah, 100%. And lining up to that too, very much in line with, a lot of people being in a liquidity crunch the past few months. But at the same time, like where it looks right now, all the solid, like if you were stacking solid projects over the last couple months, a lot of them have performed pretty well, like to where we are now, in all things considered. So, leading up to that too, people are going to be getting more liquidity by letting off a few pieces that they may have picked up for extremely cheap over the past few months. So yeah, I'm pretty bullish on NFTs after Art Basel for the next month or two at the very least.
Yeah, man, I fully agree with that. I think that it's something that, you really can't ignore going into it, that as much as it felt like back in the heart of the bull market that NFT collections just slowly die off, what we've really seen is, okay, there's been a little bit more of a liquidity crunch. So what does that mean? It means that, like, while people are looking to exit, that, okay, yeah, things will go down, but what happens with these are, with these collections, like Pudgies are a perfect example, right? Where, look at their price discovery slash expansion from 2 ETH to 4 ETH that happened, kind of in the month of August. So after it had that massive volume raise up to 4 ETH from the 2 ETH area, and slowly bled back down to about 2.5 ETH, right? But what happens is when it finally hit that floor and it finally flattened out a little bit, the number that were listed to get back up to 4, wasn't nearly as high. And it just people slowly ate away that had a higher conviction to be able to get back to where we are now. And, then what happens next? Boom. Well, back at the all-time high level, FOMO starts to ensue. And you get another round of volume that comes sweeping in. But there's a lot of patience in that process that's involved in getting there. But it's one of those things that naturally occurs with a lot of these projects that have some type of higher level of momentum. They're not completely dying off with that, right? Pick God, what's going on, man?
Not much, guys. I'm finally able to talk just because I called out of work today because I've been sick for the last couple of days. But,
Rugged.
dude, I am so fucking bullish on NFTs. Like, it's just driving me nuts, man. I feel like I'm going crazy, and I think part of it might be because, like, I'm in, like, an echo chamber, and I'm
Is it
following...
me that's getting rugged, or is it quiet?
It's you getting rugged.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, man.
All right, I was saying I'm so fucking bullish on NFTs, and I don't know if I'm just going like crazy or if I'm like just in an echo chamber because I'm following all these NFT people on Twitter. But like when I think about like a USD value, like especially like with the Pudgy Penguins, they were hanging around like 3,000 USD. Like I see no reason why the floor for Pudgies can't be 10 to 15 ETH when ETH is trading at $7,000 to $8,000 in 2 to 3 years. Hopefully, like making the project floor 100K USD. Is that something like crazy, or is that something you see happening too?
No, I think it's fully plausible. I again looking at these, like I really think that it's not too far fetched the comparison that was made a while back that Kobe put out there that NFTs are really just altcoins with pictures, right? And whenever you're trading alts, like whenever alts first started trading back in the day, like traditional alts, BTC is what everybody denominated them in, right? Everybody stacked alts in terms of BTC. You were crazy if you ever talked about USD. Well, right now it's similar, right? Everybody that trades NFTs talks about NFTs in terms of either A, their ETH price, B, their sold price, whatever chain that they're on, that, individual token is what they're looking at. But I really think we're less than 2 years away from that kind of shifting to a USD centric system. And I'm not sure what will be the trigger that really causes that, but I'm sure that there's going to be some way that a lot of the trading and a lot of the volume for NFTs does start to happen on a more centralized exchange basis. I think that people are going to figure out how to do NFT perps. As ridiculous as that may sound for some people, I think that the next bull market, there's going to be such an incentive for people to do it. And the great thing about perps for NFTs are that you don't necessarily have to, you don't have to have your actual NFT deposited on the centralized exchange, right? Perps are realistically just, they're not they're representation of the real asset, but they are not, the real asset themselves. Like, you are opening up a position 1-to-1 against somebody that is on the opposite side of your trade. That's all that matters for the liquidity. And as far as, the real thing that matters for that is being able to have an accurate metric to keep track of spot prices, which, I think that people can come up with some accurate, semi-accurate way of accounting to keep up with, what a mark price looks like for some of these assets, on the decentralized exchanges. The issue is that, you're really encountering with a lot of these as far as implementing perps are the fact that, okay, you can say, well, they're pretty easy to manipulate right now with low levels of liquidity. But again, my whole thing is, well, what that ends up driving eventually is more interest on the spot side. So it brings more volume. And I really think that you're going to slowly see that start to play out and start to happen. And, I think that it's a lot closer than a lot of people really think that it is. And once you start to get that type of interest, to now, like the CT side of it starts talking a little bit more about, okay, like, they're not just talking about shitcoin X and its chart. They're starting to talk about the charts of the NFTs that are coming out. Like, it is going to happen. It's just a matter of, practically how and when, but we're closer than what a lot of people are giving it credit for.
Yeah, no, I think that's some really good points there. And I think the best thing about trading NFTs in general is, like it's it's a little bit different in the sense that you don't really have these VCs dumping on you your altcoin bags. It's a much stronger holder base. And I mean, obviously, the main reason I'm here is because I'm here for the community sense, so bullish on the space. I think a lot of these projects can do a 10x basically from where they're at now. Pudgies, the Wonkies, the Frogs, the Seals, and I'm here for it.
No, I love it, man. And even projects at the top too, right? It's one of those things where, like I shared the ape chart about, hey, here's where it could go. If the head and shoulders breakdown does occur, I would love for it to continue to prove me wrong and continue to not necessarily ever break down to those levels, to the 30 ETH type area before it ends up bouncing back. If it does, I think that it's a great buying opportunity. But, it's one of those things. There are a lot of people that see those type of charts that show some type of near-term bearishness, and they're like, okay, well, you're claiming that NFTs are dying off in that process, and that's not necessarily true at all, right? All that it's talking about is that NFTs basically perform in the same way that, similar assets do, right? Like, different asset classes, doesn't matter what name you ascribe to it, psychology in markets trends similarly. And, that it's one of those things, if you're looking for the opportunity for solid times to buy, you should be aware of, okay, here are the things that my investment could or could not do. And, how it might end up, how patience might end up paying off and help me, secure a place to be able to invest where I'm more comfortable. But, at the same time, if you're not like willing to wait on those type of things and you just have such a high level of conviction in that project that you're like, I'm going to stack regardless of where we are continuously, that's okay too. Point being with a lot of this though is that, I think that at the end of the day, you are completely right, Pit God, where just continuing to invest and have patience in high conviction projects, especially in this space right now, I think will pay off here over the next few years. Forrest, what's up, man? Welcome up to the stage.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm just having a lot of fun listening to you guys talk. But, to come up and play a little bit of devil's advocate, I think it's kind of hard to believe some of these projects will get to that 100K floor again. I think we've gone through it, but we're going to go through a new phase of NFTs that become more of a consumer product that aren't necessarily based around hype and FOMO. And don't get me wrong, I'm very, very bullish on NFTs. The being able to own digital assets is great. I'm a project manager of 2 NFT projects. I'm balls deep in the space. But I don't know, I think we've gone through a bit of a hype cycle, and it was fun, it was crazy. People made money, people lost money. But we're going to see a new phase that's maybe more chilled out, and we'll see projects that won't sell out necessarily right away, but it won't destroy the project like it has with other projects during this phase. Sorry, I'm walking up a big hill. It's gassing me. But yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to hear about what you guys think about that. Or do you think really just more volume is going to come in the space. Rarity, things like that, going to play a role. But the only thing that matters is having more altcoins to trade and being able to trade them as quickly as possible.
Okay, well, I disagree with that last point, right? Where having more altcoins to trade and being able to trade them as quickly as possible. I think if anything, the theme of what we've talked about with the way that these NFTs end up reacting are that, if you're looking for the being able to trade them as quickly as possible, you're probably not going to perform very well in the NFT space. A lot of these projects that are performing well right now are performing well because people have had patience and they've held on to them and they've been able to, sit through the ups and the downs and slowly grind their way upward as there are more and more people that have high levels of conviction for those bags to be able to hold on to them. And, I think that it's one of those things, if you're looking for that quick flip, unless you just have some type of real form of alpha and edge for your discipline to be able to execute on that, it's really difficult to do. And, one of the things that makes it really tough with NFTs for quick flipping also is NFTs have this built-in tax system that's a lot higher than what you have with a lot of other assets, for the creator royalties and for the platform royalties, where you get them on both the buy and the sell side of the trade, that you are paying these whether you realize it or not, right? So it inherently puts your cost basis just X amount higher, whenever you buy it. You have to have it perform X% to even break even on a lot of these. And that's not always an easy thing to do. So I think that, having patience with a lot of these and not having the quick flip mentality is incredibly important if you want to perform well.
And on that too, if you look at the apes chart from like way back in the beginning where they had initially moved from like 15, 16 ETH to about 50 ETH over like the course of 3 or 4 days, they actually had not a lot of sales. It was only like, between like 400 and 500 total sales that moved them from the 15, 16 ETH to the 50 ETH spot. And so they kind of had a little blessing in terms of like it was so new, people weren't as afraid of getting rugged yet and scared to or just and going depleting completely to zero. So people were more willing to just, I think, let it ride back then, and now people are a little bit more cautious of taking profits. You'll see a project have 1,000 sales just to move 0.05 ETH. So there is a little bit of a discrepancy in the sentiment around the whole space from when a project like Apes was making their initial move, and then other projects nowadays are having to fight through more people taking profits.
Yeah, man. So it's part of the nature, I think, of any market that, again, as you have expansion, you have contraction, you've got a lot of consolidation and accumulation prior to the next, expansion / markup. So I don't know. I just still have a lot of FOMO that I wasn't able to be there with y'all, Rooster. But dude, I'm telling you, the freaking water supply here absolutely wrecked me and completely wrecked my stomach for the end of it. So even if I was planning on going to it, bro, it's almost a blessing in disguise because I wouldn't have been going anyway till like Wednesday or Thursday. So when the whole water supply issue took place here, it was on Sunday, right? And apparently E. coli takes like at least 3 days for the symptoms to really creep in. So it didn't hit me until Wednesday evening when I would have probably been heading out there anyway. And I was just wrecked for about 3 to 4 days straight because of that, which would have been exactly during the window.
Right. And I mean, you should know better than to just trust Houston water out the tap from the get anyways. But no, that was one thing me and B-Ways and some of the other legends were talking about was if you actually did end up making making it out and going out with us, there's like two scenarios. We'd either become much closer, or you would never ever want to see us again. And
bro, that's how it is with everybody every time, right? Like, I mean, unless y'all are just complete assholes out, I would think it'd be the first one.
No, right, but I just meaning of like how hard we went. I blame you for me walking out of 11 at like 8 something in the morning. I blame you for that because on the pre-Basel spaces, that was the only club I heard you mention by name was 11. So when I saw it again, it ringed in, and then
Wait,
yeah,
you went to 11 because you heard me mention it on the pre-Basel spaces? I think I
no,
mentioned.
that's not why we went, but when like it came up in conversation, I was like, oh yeah, I heard that before. That was like the only place Kaleo talked about, like some of like the big popping places that I was like, that was one of the only ones he said by name. And then I saw a banner while I was at the beach, and it was like Travis Scott performing at 11 tonight. We didn't go for that. It was the same night we went. I think we pulled up after he was already there though. But yeah, no, 100% your fault of me walking out of there at like 8:30.
Bro, you know the crazy part? I've still never made it to 11. Like, I actually never have. But, I think that in the pre-Basel space, I think I mentioned 11 by name and Space by name because those are two of the clubs that are over there on the Wynwood side.
Yeah. You could kind of call, yeah, I guess 11 changes
11's like
scenes
where
after,
Gainesy lives.
yeah, apparently it changes scenes after a certain time in the night. Um, but yeah, it was definitely a club, and now I can completely understand how you're talking about just walking, or like not just walking. See, I'm still a little brain fried. Uh, just going there and trying to budget, and how easy it is to spend $10,000.
Yeah, bro. You see what I'm talking about? Like, not only how easy it is to do that, but like you just leave completely physically wrecked after it. And I mean, it's a good time, but like that's the issue. Like, you're dipping out and going to bed early if you're going like back at 2 or 3 a.m. Right? Like that is an
Right.
early night if you're wrapping up around then. And that's tough, man. Like it's, once you're over the age of 30 and you're a complete boomer, it makes it a lot more difficult to push through that.
We did it. Everybody was rallying. First night, I think we went to bed like 5 something, or I went to bed at like 5 something. The second night was like 7 something. Third night, Saturday night, I didn't go to bed, which ended up hitting me and Nelsonius really hard. I like on the way to the airport. I don't know what happened, but everything like hit me so hard like a truck halfway through the Uber. We had the nicest like little Uber driver, and we're having great conversation with her. And then I was like feeling like I almost was starting a stroke. I'm not gonna lie. Uh, I completely disassociated. Didn't even feel like I knew where I was. I was not well, and I was like, great. Now I have to go navigate the airport. And now Sonny, he was a doctor, and we rode to the airport together. So I'm like, okay, this makes me feel a little bit better. I got a doctor right here. And so I'm like, don't even know where I am. Like, I'm speaking gibberish, right? The conversation was great, and then I don't even know, talking about, I have no idea. And then I have to wait in line for check-in because the kiosks weren't working. And so they never sent me an email to check into my flight before. So that was terrible. But anyway, he waited for me, and then I get out of line, and he's like, man, I am not well. And I thought he was like just mocking me for what I was just doing. But no, the same exact thing hit him like 15 minutes later. And then, so yeah, we were both disassociated and feeling like we were actually peaking on psilocybin. in the middle of the airport, and that was a journey.
Dude, that's that's intense. So were guys like 80s living out through this entire period? Who was the person that was constantly dipping the earliest?
Nobody.
Nobody.
Actually, and what was really sad too is the 80s actually wasn't even able to make it out to Basel. So that was it. Kind of hurt all of us a little bit because we were all super, or at least me. I haven't met him in real life before, right? And so we're super excited to meet each other. But he didn't end up being able to make it, so that was a very unfortunate. Just like T2, T wasn't able to make it either. But we FaceTimed. We FaceTimed night one. That was pretty much the only time it was possible. Other than that, I was incapacitated.
Okay, what about Cube?
Cube didn't make. Cube wasn't there. So
I thought Cube was there. Cube was showing beach pictures.
No, Cube was somewhere like with his family. I think, like on vacation with his family. So yeah, he wasn't. So at the house we had. Breath wasn't able to make it either. He was supposed to pull up, but he ended up getting sick. So a lot of people ended up. So if you're talking about dipping out the earliest, it was those guys. But no, it brought out the true degens, I guess. So no one was dipping early. We were all raging at all times.
Who was the most interesting, big name Twitter account type person that you met? Did you meet anybody?
Yeah, met a lot of people the first night. Talked to Thread Guy. He's actually very cool, very genuine person. Really enjoyed his company. Farouk ended up pulling up to LaRouge. Talked to Frank D. Gods a couple times as well. No, I doubled the sleep that I got throughout that weekend last night. So I'm still a little bit scrambled.
So it all blurs together a little bit.
Yeah. Who else?
I'm just curious, who you met in person was completely different than what you expected from, the personalities they portray online.
That's a good question. I'll have to think about that first. I'll have to think. I need to write down the list of people that I met while I was there, and honestly, I think I have an answer for that. I think it might be Klaus from PA.
Klaus from PA. Okay.
Yeah, I think.
I don't know Klaus too. I know him a little bit because B-Ways told me about him, and I followed him since then. But still haven't interacted a ton. What was it that was just completely different about
him? We actually ended up being extremely similar.
Really?
That's what. We were extremely similar type people. And what's funny is he lives like 20 minutes away from me too. So we'll be linking up more.
That's badass, man. Love it. So overall, after going to this one, what would you recommend to the people that did not go? Is it worth it rolling out? Is it not? Who is it for? Who is it not for?
It's it depends on what you're going for, because there's a lot of events it's impossible to make it to all of them. So you kind of have to tailor it to what you want to do. I think everybody should definitely try and make it out there. Turbo bullish. I would definitely. I'm doing it again every year. I'm probably going to try and hit NYC this year too, maybe. I'm gonna hit ETH Denver as well. Obviously, I'm here, so if you're coming to ETH, these conferences, I think, especially on the NFT side, one of the main foundations of NFTs is the communities it creates, and I think being able to meet and hang out and spend time with the people you've been shooting the shit online with for months or years on end is extremely important. And I think it cements more of like a community bond as well. So as far as the NFT side, I think that is important because it's one of the main foundations of it. So I'm definitely doing it again. Um, Depending on what you want to do, it's definitely very easy to overdo it, which I kind of did a little bit, as my story foretold at the airport. But yeah, that's what I'd say. If you like to party, definitely you can find anything to do. Um, you can go to smaller play like more like mixers and do more networking, and if you'd like to as well. Personally, I did not see any of the memes about like the people all on their phones. That was not the same experience I got. I was like, I'm not sure what Art Basel they're at, but it's definitely not the same one I'm at. Um, but yeah, no, it was very enjoyable. Very enjoyable.
Love to hear it, man. Well, I appreciate you hopping on. I know it's, not easy after a weekend like what you just experienced, but I definitely appreciated hearing everything about it, man. It was sounds like it was a fun experience. For those that missed the beginning of this, all of what he just summarized is by more Wonky Stonks.
110%.
Like that's what I heard from everything that he just said. So
Yeah,
I
if y'all didn't
do
see, the Wonky venue was the biggest venue of the whole weekend.
easily, and the most underground too.
Yeah, people were leaving the 8 party to go to the Wonky event because obviously it was at the same time.
It was so
Stonks
ridiculous.
4 to 100 ETH.
The craziest thing is, Rooster, it was such an insane party that nobody even remembers it.
Yeah, no, it's like it's unable to be talked about. NDAs were having to be signed. It was a movie.
Yeah, even though I'm the person that issued those NDAs, you are risking your life slightly by even bringing up what you just brought up.
Right, slightly, absolutely.
So, yeah, man, I gotta wrap up things, unfortunately, but good as always. And now that we don't have any of this, no Basil, nothing else going on. Friday, we will be back with another episode of Wonky Weekly Alpha. So look out for it and be there. But again, as always, appreciate you, Rooster. Appreciate you, Pick God. Appreciate also before you got here, Rooster. Actually, you did see him for a second. Wonka coming up and giving his explanation of how he does agree that football actually is called soccer. That was a huge admission and maybe the biggest revelation of this entire space.
Legendary.
But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this one, and we will see you this next Friday.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone, coming out. Love and light.